Hey guys, this is Blue Forest. I hope you're doing well. So we have received the official announcement. Ironhide is being released today in a matter of hours. I'm very excited about it. I'm also very happy that they decided to release him immediately after the Skywarp cycle. And so I wanted to do a video where I go over his abilities as well as decipher as best we can what his strengths and weaknesses will be. I will say that Skies did release a video on him recently. They loaned him a 4-star Ironhide, kind of like Kabam did with Skywarp. And so if you would like to see some Ironhide gameplay, I'd recommend you go check out that video. But I wanted to offer my initial analysis based upon my first readings of this report. And I have to say that overall, I'm quite happy with what I see. I think for the most part, he's going to be a very strong bot with a lot of very useful and interesting abilities. And I think he will be a very worthwhile and strong addition to the brawler class. So looking at his abilities, the first thing you notice is that he has 15% passive critical resistance. This is really nice because it will be helpful in longer, more difficult fights. This will also work well with his armor buffs, which are a very critical part of his kit. And this critical resistance he gets is very similar to the crit damage resistance mastery. So that defensive mastery, if you rank that up, you get 15% crit damage resistance. So the fact that he has something very similar to that built into his kit, I think is a very strong addition to Ironhide. Now, Ironhide will start the fight with 5 4% armor buffs that last 10 seconds, and in addition to that, whenever he gains a new armor buff, he has a 75% chance to gain a 9 to 20% melee buff for 8 seconds. A few things about this. Number one, I like that these buffs are fairly long, 8 seconds, 10 seconds, that's enough time to work with. And these buffs are also going to increase with rank. So if you had a 5-star rank 6 Ironhide, in this example, he'd be getting a 20% melee buff. Obviously, those are always going to be helpful to do additional damage. On top of that, like a lot of other brawlers, Ironhide has a chance to gain an armor buff for 10 seconds every time he is attacked. Now, this really stood out to me. The fact that he can refresh armor buffs. This makes him a little bit like TC in some sense, because he will be able to refresh armor buffs with medium combos. This means you will be able to keep them going for longer durations of time, which will be very useful to him. On top of that, if Ironhide has less than 5 armor buffs, he gains a 2% armor buffs. Okay, that's a typo. So it's either 2% armor buff or it's several of them, I'm not sure, but he will gain that 2% armor for 10 seconds. Now, blocking will be very important for his kit because this is what allows him to purify. Now, I was very eagerly awaiting to see what they would do about this because one thing I have said before is that the brawlers can be frustrating because purification is all over the map, right? So you have all-purpose purifiers like Grimlock and TC, but then you have other bots like Grinder or Motormaster that don't purify at all. So I'm so happy that they gave Ironhide purification. It does not seem to be limited either. It looks like he will be able to purify any type of debuff, which is also really awesome. There's a few things to bear in mind, however. Number one, he will only be able to remove 1 debuff every 1.5 seconds, so that's kind of 1 debuff at a time. But more importantly, it's not going to be passive like Grimlock's, and it's also not going to be instant, because you're going to have to hold block for 1.5 seconds in order to purify, which means that in most cases it'll be more like 2 seconds or even more, because even if you block very quickly, let's say within half a second, you're not going to get the purification until that full 1.5 seconds has elapsed. And if you look at Skies' video, he allows Mixmaster to land acid on him, and you see that the purification does not happen until that time has passed. Now that's fine, you'll still be able to purify very consistently, but it does mean that you are going to eat a little bit of DOT damage if the opponent lands, let's say, a shock or a bleed on you. The only concern I have about this is that there are going to be some situations in which it might not be quite as easy to do this as you might think, because if you're going up against very intelligent or aggressive AI, there are some fights where they're not going to want to let you just pause and block. They might want to dash at you, attack you. So you're probably going to have to practice with this, get the hang of it, be able to land that block very quickly so that you can purify before the opponent is able to hit you. With that said, the fact that it is comprehensive, the fact that he has it at all, makes him a very serious contender within this class, and I think it's really awesome that they did give this purification to him. So, heavy attacks. This is interesting. He will be able to do 200% additional damage to stunned opponents. That's awesome because of the fact that stuns are also an important part of his kit, and it looks like you will be able to stun frequently, because they gave him a stun chance on all of his specials, which is always great because you land that special, you do all of the special damage, and then you have another window to do even more damage. What I like here is that his stuns are 3 seconds, which is pretty long, and he has a 10% chance to stun for every armor buff. And because you can stack those buffs, there are going to be situations in which you have a 100% chance to stun. And even if you only have, let's say, 5 armor buffs, it'll still be a 50% chance to stun. And so that means that he's going to be able to stun with his specials pretty frequently. And so if you land that special and then you do the heavy, you're going to do a ton of additional, basically free damage. So in terms of his specials, I like what I see here as well. He gets some nice buffs. So with the special 1, he's gaining a 20 to 35% melee buff for 8 seconds. 8 seconds is plenty of time. This will also go up by rank, so it looks like at rank 6, he's getting a 35% melee buff. That's a lot. That's a very strong buff. With a special 2, he has a 100% chance to go unstoppable for 7 seconds. I like that it's a guaranteed chance, and again, 7 seconds is definitely enough time to work with to land additional attacks. And when that unstoppable ends, he's gaining 3-4% armor buffs for 10 seconds. And then a special 3, very interesting as well, because number 1, it will refresh his armor buffs, but more importantly, all debuffs applied for the opponent will be 10% weaker, which you can stack up to 4. So that special 3 will probably be very useful in longer fights. You might want to use that special 3 first, just to give you that additional sort of debuff resistance. Now, in terms of animations, the special 1 and 2 do have new animations. You can see those in Skies' video. The special 3 is the same as Ratchet's, but that's fine. Having any new animations is always welcome. Now, his signature. Okay, so Trithelium Body. This is not the greatest sig. It's okay. Not the strongest. So he has this melee reflection. This sig shares some characteristics with Wheeljack as well as the reflectors like Soundwave and Jetfire. The melee reflect does seem to be fixed for 7.5 seconds, which is a good duration of time, especially since it happens 3 times. What I don't like so much is that it is RNG based, right? You're getting a 16 to 90% chance to deal 75% of his attack. That's not actually all that much attack, but more importantly, like I said, is that what this means is that at low sig, it's going to be a low chance to reflect, which means you're going to have to invest a lot into his sig if you want to get that chance up, right? So at sig 100, it'll be 90%. He will reflect almost everything. But if he's at sig 5 or 10, it might only be more like 20%. So you're not going to be able to rely on it at low sig for sure. It's a very defensive sig. With that said, there will be situations where it helps you out. If you're backed into a corner, if the opponent is pummeling you, there will be times where this reflection will come in to sort of save you. So it's not the best sig, but with that said, the rest of his kit I think is very strong. He has a lot going for him. And so I think even without his sig, he's going to offer quite a lot to the players of this game. In terms of synergies, these do not seem to be fleshed out at all. He has like basic attack with Dirge and Skywarp. He has this nice synergy with Prowl where he gets up to 12% attack against Decepticons. But it looks like there's something missing. Like he doesn't have any synergies with other Autobots like OGP or Wheeljack or the other Bees. So maybe that just hasn't been unrolled, yet. We have to see what Kabam does. Maybe they will add additional synergies later. But for the time being, this is a very limited sort of synergies kit. So we'll just have to see what Kabam does in the future. But like I said, overall, I'm quite impressed. I think he's got a lot going for him. His armor buffs, his melee buffs, those are great. Stuns seem to be consistent. He can purify. that all that extra damage with his heavies. There's a lot to like about him, so I'm very excited to play with him. And I will say that whenever I get him, even as a 3 or 4 star, I will make another video, probably do some gameplay. In the meantime, if you guys get him in the coming days, let me know in the comments. How do you feel about him? Do you like playing with him? How is his play style? And I will certainly do the same once I get him. So for now, please do take care of yourselves. Let me know if you have any questions, and we will talk again very soon. Bye-bye.